Sure. Well, good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us for this month's educational event featuring Holly Zoba. She has a really great program planned for you today. I'm very excited because back when we could travel in February, I actually had the opportunity to hear her speak in person in Austin, Texas, and it was fantastic. So it's going to be a great day. Before we start, we do have a couple of announcements that we want to share with you. The first is please save the date. Dan Waxman, who is also on this call, will be speaking next month, August 18th. The topic is demystifying the Google machine. So keep an eye out in your email for registration details on that event. And then lastly, for those of you who I may not have met in person or do not know me, I've been on the board as president-elect for the last couple of years. I've had the privilege to actually be on the board for, gosh, maybe 6 years now in a few different positions, and I've been involved with HSMAI as a member for over 10 years now. So it's been such a fun journey, but the journey continues. I will be stepping into the president position a little earlier than expected today. But I'm very excited. You know, we have a really strong board for this association, and we continue to meet. Despite all of the unique things that are happening in our industry and in our world, we are continuing to meet monthly and trying to work to come up with some really good sales, marketing, and revenue programs for all of you. So definitely, if there's any ideas or any resources, anything that you need from us, please don't hesitate to reach out. Know that we're still here and we're still focused on moving forward. Related to that, just if you're curious, Dina is still around, but the reason why I am stepping into the position a little early is because she has a wonderful opportunity to take a job that's actually outside of the hospitality industry. So she ensures us that after working in the industry for 20 years, and being part of the association for over 10, that she's not going anywhere. You know, you'll definitely be able to find her, small island, right? But in the meantime, here we go. So with that, I'd like to introduce our speaker today, Holly Zoba, Professor Holly Zoba, if you would like to refer to her in that way. Let me just tell you a little bit about Holly, and then I will kick it off to her. Holly is the founder of Scout Simply, which helps hotels find more revenue through better sales and marketing strategies and technology. In 2019, she launched a unique sales training program, Influencer Sales, which is built around the changing behaviors of hotel B2B buyers. This program integrates new sales strategies along with introducing digital applications in order to engage prospects earlier and close more sales. Holly's career started with Hospitality Partners in Washington, D.C., where she had multiple operations and sales roles, including 10 years as a corporate sales and marketing leader. An early interest in all things digital, because I'm digital too, led her to a sales role with Milestone Internet Marketing, and later to becoming a full stack web application developer. She also spent several years as the SVP of Hospitality with Signature Worldwide Training, where she learned the principles of adult learning and developed training programs with IHG, Smith Travel Research, and Caesars Entertainment, among others. She's a current member of HSMAI. She's based in Arizona and is the immediate past chair of the HSMAI Marketing Advisory Board. During her time there, she was a founding co-author of the CHDM exam and study guide, the Certificate for Hotel Digital Marketers, which has led to her most recent training program that she does side by side with Dan, called Hotel Digital Marketing Essentials. She is a frequent speaker at industry conferences and author of multiple articles in research and hospitality media, including the AHLA Independent Hotels Best Practice Guide for Marketing. And she is a recipient of the top 25 most extraordinary minds in sales and marketing for her work and advocacy on marketing. So she is professor. You earned the title of professor. She's absolutely brilliant. We're super excited to have you, Holly. Feel free. Let's go ahead.
Thank you so much. With that sort of, I really feel badly. You're supposed to lower expectations and then wow them. I think you've really raised expectations and now forget about it. I am, however, very excited to be here talking about this particular topic because it is one of my favorites, and you guys who signed up are very brave because I know it's not like a no-brainer what buyer enablement necessarily means. I do teach a class with Dan Waxman, who is sitting in today to probably give me a bad time. And he immediately said, that's a dumb name, you need to change it. And so he came up with, make it easy for them to give you their money, which I think is also a really good title. And it's really what it's about, making it easy for customers to give us their money, for us to find prospects, just making it in general a little bit easier for the process to move along. But of course, I have a lot of specific advice to you about how you can get that done. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And you might think that making it easy for people to buy, no brainer, right? Not so much. We're going to talk a lot about how we get in our customers' way of making it easy for them to give us their money. And I'd like to start off with a clip from a movie about this guy who all he's trying to do is buy his mistress a Christmas present while he's in a mall shopping with his wife. And if you happen to know the name of this movie before I start to play it, go ahead and type it in the chat box for extra bonus points. Dan, you don't count. Well, that was anticlimactic. Here we go. Sorry about that.
Looking for anything in particular, sir?
Yes, that necklace there, how much is it?
It's £270.
All right, I'll have it.
Lovely. Would you like it gift wrapped?
Yes, all right.
Lovely. Let me just pop it in the box.
Look, could we be quite quick?
Certainly, sir. Ready in the flashiest of flashes.
That's great.
Not quite finished.
Look, actually, I don't need a bag. I'll just put it in my pocket.
No, this isn't a bag, sir.
Really?
This is so much more than a bag.
Could we be quite quick, please?
Prontissimo.
What's that?
It's a cinnamon stick, sir.
Actually, I can't wait.
Oh, you won't regret it, sir.
Want a bet?
It is but the work of a moment. Yeah, almost finished.
Almost finished. What else can there be? You're going to dip it in yogurt, cover it with chocolate buttons.
No, sir. We're going to pop it in the Christmas box.
But I don't want a Christmas box.
But you said you wanted it gift wrapped.
I did.
This is the final flourish.
Can I just pay?
All we need now
Oh, God.
is a sprig of holly.
No bloody holly.
But sir,
Leave it, just leave it.
Loitering around the jewellery section, I see.
No, I was just looking around.
Worry. My expectations are not that high after 13 years of Mr. Oh, but you always love stuff.
All right. So as you can see, Sometimes, John White, well done. You guessed it before we even had it up there. So as you can see, really, even when we have the best intentions, sometimes we just make it really hard for our buyers to buy. And so that's what we, in fact, are going to talk about today. I normally do an introduction myself, but I'm totally going to skip it because you know much more about me than most people after that introduction. But I am going to try and get to know you a little bit. And I'm very curious. And for those of you who have never done Menti before, you're going to learn something today. It's usually easiest if you take out your phone to answer this question. You just go onto your phone, or if you have a second screen, you can just do it that way. You're going to type in menti.com, and then it's going to ask you for a code, and the code is 136003. And I'm ever so hopeful that it's going to work. And if you could just tell me from your perception, and particularly over the last couple of months, how have buyers changed? Again, the code is 136003, and I always do it at the same time to make sure that, in fact, it's working. They're spending less. And really, you can think about how buyers have changed since COVID, but even before COVID, they really had been changing. Shorter timelines, they're laid off. I am amazed at how many of our purchasers, more online purchases, more expectations for everything to be online. You are not kidding. Information available, it's much more accessible, more restrictions, true that. All right. Fantastic. You can keep typing. There are far more choices available. These are all such good answers. And they're true. The funny part is, with the exception of being laid off, maybe spending less, no marketing budgets, these are all true of our customers actually pre-COVID. Even pre-COVID, they were making more purchases online. They had expectations for everything to be available online. So we're going to talk a little bit today about more B2B customers than B2C. I usually end up with a lot of salespeople on this call, so I focus a bit more on the business to business world versus business to individual consumer. But these rules really do apply to both. You know, everybody's buyers have changed, but I'm going to look at our B2B buyers. And big change number one, and this started a couple of years ago, there are more people involved with every single purchase decision. And the tricky part is, though, and according to LinkedIn, 6.8 people are involved. In my own research, with a purchase of about $25,000, which is not an enormous corporate purchase, there are actually up to 17 people involved in an average size company. That is a lot of people. And the tricky part is you're probably only talking to one or two of them. So unfortunately, you don't get to talk to all 17 or even 6.8. You're just talking to one, and then they are taking it back to their buying committee. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that buying committee looks like. Number two, they spend less time talking to us. So there's more of them. We're only talking to one. And even that one person, they're doing a bunch of stuff online. They're researching online. They're asking their friends what they buy. They're doing a lot of their work and research before they ever engage a salesperson. So I don't have data to back this up. It's anecdotal, but it's generally agreed that customers are probably 80% of their way through the buying process before they ever engage a salesperson. So somebody had written that the lead time was much shorter. The reality is the work starts a lot earlier, but by the time they get to a salesperson, they want it in 2 weeks. So they've already been doing all this work, and we're going to talk about exactly what that work is. There's a company called Gartner Research. I'm a huge fan, and they've done thousands of surveys about exactly how buying processes work. And this, people ask me all the time, who do I mean? This is true for associations. This is true for corporations. This is true within the government. It really is sort of across all B2B channels. And these are the steps that these buyer committees are going through. And before you think it's so formal, I'm going to give you a hotel example, and this might make more sense to you how there are so many more people involved in purchasing decisions. So let's imagine if we could, that our hotels were up and running, and we noticed that we were getting really bad service scores all of a sudden. And so the GM, of course, blames the front office manager and says, hey, your service scores are really bad. What are you going to do? Front office manager says, it's not my fault. I am so short-staffed because human resources never replaces people. And then human resources speaks up and says, no, that's not true. I give you a ton of people. You can't keep them because you don't train them. And so here we have 3 people that are beginning to be involved in this potential purchase. So they've got to solve this problem. They have this bad service. What are they going to do? So the 3 of them decide, all right, we're going to do some service training. We're going to bring some people in and do some service training. But then the front desk manager says, you know what? I don't think we need service training. I think they don't know how to use the system. I think we need technical training. And then the HR person comes back and says, our service problem is not just at the front desk. It's really hotel-wide. And I think it's a leadership problem because that's what HR always says. So they bring in their food and beverage guy, and they bring in their chief engineer, anybody that is managing people, and they talk about, all right, maybe we need to do some leadership training. So here and now is this kind of informal buying committee, and they go out and they start to search for solutions. So they come back and they realize they don't really know exactly the kind of service training that they're looking for. The first one comes back with a great company that does online training. And then one of the buyer committee people says, oh no, I found in-person training. And then they go and talk to the supplier and they find out in-person training is more expensive, but the salesperson's done a great job. They've convinced them that in-person training is really the way to go because it's much more powerful. Well, then, in the end, it works out that they don't need service training. They don't need leadership training. They don't need technical training. They need a new PMS. The HR person observed at the front desk, the PMS system is blowing up every 20 minutes. And that's making customers wait and making them irate, and then they lose their information. So the whole process that they just went through, all of those steps, they had to start all over because now they need a new PMS system. So when you are thinking about your buyers, very often this is the process that they're going through. So there's more of them. And whenever there's more of anybody involved in a decision, there's more chaos involved because they've gone out and gotten their own information. Everybody has a friend. Everybody has somebody that they worked with before that they are more comfortable working with. And so they bring on average 4.5 pieces of information to the table, to the buying process. So if you looked back at that chart where I said they spent less time talking to us, there was this 16% of other things that they were doing. And in fact, that other stuff is deconflicting information. So all this information's coming in and people misunderstand. look as an example at the way that we view masks and mask wearing. It's, you know, it's going to save our lives. It's going to kill us. There's just so much information, and we have to spend a lot of time really filtering through to get to the bottom of it. And it's a big deal, and it impacts, this communication process impacts our lives in many ways, and it certainly impacts the life of our buyers. Have any of you heard of a book called The Mythical Man Month? Zach, have you heard of it? If you have, raise your hand. I'll be stunned.
No, I haven't.
It was written in 1976 by a software engineer. I can't believe that you all haven't read it. But it is a fascinating theory that it was written for software people, but it absolutely holds true for almost anything we do. Here is a little bit of math. Take a look. I'm explaining the Mythical Man Month. So what the Mythical Man Month looks like in the buying process is listed here. This is just the same thing that I showed you a couple slides ago. It's just sort of mapped out for a regular company, not a hotel. So you can see here they have their independent online research. They get overwhelming information. They have to get it, oops, their mouse doesn't work, technology doesn't work. There's misalignment on the scope, that never happens. It doesn't just go from problem to solution to requirements to selection. It often takes many twists and turns. And here's one of my favorite things, buying group turnover. If anybody's in sales, you've spent, you know, time invested in trying to make a sale, and then at the last minute, your person decides to leave and get another job. Bottom line, because of all of this stuff, our buyers are very stressed. Somebody actually also wrote that on the comments. They're tense, and they're tense because there's too much information. It's overwhelming. And so the role of the salesperson and the e-commerce department within our hotels is simply to make it easy at every step along the way for your buyer to choose your option. So that's what our goal is as we're doing this, providing information that helps support every single step of the buyer's path to purchase. So we're going to go back to Menti for a second here, I hope. And I want to ask you, what companies do you know that are great at buyer enablement? And you can think, what companies make it easy for you to spend your money? You can do B2B or B2C, it doesn't matter to me. And again, it should just come up automatically, but the code is 136003. There's Amazon. There's Amazon again. Starbucks. Starbucks makes it very easy. I cannot leave my house without thinking, oh, I better stop at Starbucks. Disney, if you have children. Zappos, they sell happiness. It's so very true. All right, this is fantastic. Not surprising. I get Amazon every single time because it's absolutely true. I have 2 Springer Spaniels, and one of them is older, and I wanted to get my older dog a wheelchair because when I take the younger one out on walks, the older one gets tired. And Amazon said to me, no, you don't need a dog wheelchair, you need a dog stroller. And then they presented me with, many different options, and they just made it ridiculously easy for me to figure out what I needed, how much I was going to have to spend, what the reviews were, what other people said about it, what size I should get for my dog. They just are masters at buyer enablement. And voila, every single step, if you think about it, they help me. Like problem identification, no, not a wheelchair, you need a stroller. Explore solutions, here's 1,000 options. Build requirements, your dog will fit in this one. At the end, there is my dog in the non-wheelchair stroller, which, by the way, she hates and I never use. Who is the worst at buyer enablement? And I'm not doing this on a Menti question. I'm going to tell you the answer is every industry that has been disrupted. If your industry is not stepping up to make buyer enablement easier, as hotels on the B2C side, we have stepped up. We've done pretty well. I'll reserve my judgment on the B2C side, on the B2B side. But for example, taxis, think about what life used to be before Uber and Lyft. If you're going to take a taxi, where do I call? Maybe one's just going to pass by that's going to be empty. And I'm talking, if you live in New York City, it's one experience. If you live anywhere else, it was a crapshoot. How long is it going to take for a cab to come? How much is it going to cost? Well, they take a credit card without an argument. And basically, you just sort of had to hope for the best. And those were your options. Every new taxi company that was invented was exactly the same. Enter Lyft. What Lyft did beautifully was put buyer enablement. They made every step of the process a piece of cake. Where do I call? Just press a button on your phone. There's nothing to remember. Maybe one's going to pass by. How long is it going to take? How much is it going to cost? Lyft, the app, answers all of your questions, and it includes visuals. It's very clear, and it removes that feeling of doubt. Will they take a credit card without an argument? They remove the stress altogether. You don't even have to worry about it. It's covered. The hope for the best, you can watch your driver approach. You know what's going to happen. You don't have to be stressed. They do a fantastic job. So now I do want to ask you a Menti question. This is our last one. On a scale of 1 to 10, how easy do we make it for our prospects to choose us? And I don't know if I did this the right way. I think I should have flipped it, but I said 1 is very hard. 10, we make it very easy. So go ahead and tell 1 very hard, 2.5. Usually I have to convince hotels a little bit that we make the buying process hard. Apparently not with this group. Do we have anybody? All right, we have a 4. 4.4, we're going in the right direction. Don't you love Menti, by the way, talking about making it easy for you? So you can see this is how people individually have voted. And so you can get the detail or you can just get the big picture. It just makes it really simple. 4.3, I'll go along with that. I think in general, our intention is to make it a pleasant experience. I really don't think we're trying to be difficult, but in reality, we do turn out to make it a little bit difficult. I'm going to spend the rest of my time with you giving you examples of how we make it hard and how we potentially could make it a little bit easier. I have to, a couple times a year, book a hotel because I do a training class. And all I need, it's like the simplest thing in the world. I need a price from a hotel, 25 people, some coffee in the morning, a lunch, and a meeting room. I need an LC, a projector, and I'll bring my own laptop. That's all I need. Maybe that's really all that I need. So a couple times a year, I go through this process and it is painful. I have to go onto somebody's booking site and fill out an RFP because I can't find a hotel email address on a website. If it's a branded website, I can't find the email address. So I either have to pick up the phone, or if I'm doing it online, I've got to fill out an RFP. And whenever you fill out an RFP, they send you a note back and say, don't just fill it out for one hotel, fill it out for 8 hotels. And that's awful. So I pick my hotels, and inevitably every hotel sends me something that looks like that on the left with the estimated costs. Now, you all are hotel folks. You might be able to decipher that. I am also a hotel person. I do not know how to decipher that. I don't know how much it's going to cost me. I just need a price per person. All I need from one hotel is that price, because I'm just going to build it into the cost of my training. It really doesn't, matter that much to me. But that's what they send me. And then to the right, and I'm picking on, I chose the Boston Harbor Hyatt. Every hotel does the same thing. They send me 27 attachments. It's just incredible to me, the volume of information that they send to me. And so it's overwhelming to me. It's too much information. So the intention is good, but in reality, we end up just making it very difficult. So the program that I actually teach, my digital sales class, I walk you through every single step and talk to you about some tools and how you can apply it. For the purposes of this class, I'm only going to talk to you about the supplier selection. So we're going to assume that we're at the point where the buyer, the potential buyer, is talking to us. How in that phase can we make the process easier for our buyer? And I'm going to introduce you to a handful of tools. And they're not so much tools as strategies that you need to incorporate. I'm going to give you some specific strategies for most of these, but you can think of your own. Just think of the concept and then try and figure out, how can I apply this concept to make it easier for my prospect to buy from me? The first one, and this is a little bit what I was talking about a minute ago with the overwhelming options, we should really try to be a recommender. Instead of giving them a ton of options, you're the expert on this. Can't you just give them a recommendation? First of all, it's really hard to get a banquet menu on a website. I don't know why, but typically you actually have to call the hotel or email or somehow get through to them, and they have to send you a banquet menu. When I've asked hotels why that is, they've given me a variety of reasons. But the second part to it is they send you all of their banquet menus, even though you just want a lunch. And again, think back to my meeting. I just want like a sandwich or something. This is what I have to look through to make my selection for lunch. Overwhelming, stresses me out. I don't need that. I would so much prefer if you sent me something that looks like this, or if I could find that on your website, because like you said, somebody made the comment earlier, people like to research stuff on their own. Oh my gosh, the few hotels that do have their banquet menus available online, I'm so happy. I can go in and at least I can get a ballpark. Or you as the salesperson, instead of sending me everything, you can do that also under a separate email, but just send me 2 options and then a little note saying, Our clients love these two. What do you think? I have more if you want something different, but you just give them an option of two. Tool number two, a simulator. So this is a demonstration where you are planting in your customer's mind, this is how my product is going to work for you. In the olden days, it was a little bit easier because we could invite our customers to come to our hotel and have a site inspection. Today, we're having to get a little bit more creative. I have found one more video clip of the ideal demonstration. So if you can do this, this is really what you're shooting for.
Is it better to be feared or respected? And I say, is it too much to ask for both?
And you can type in.
With that in mind, I humbly present the crown jewel of Stark Industries' Freedom Line. It's the first missile system to incorporate our proprietary repulsor technology. They say the best weapon is one you never have to fire. I respectfully disagree. I prefer the weapon you only have to fire once. That's how Dad did it. That's how America does it. And it's worked out pretty well so far. Find an excuse to let one of these off the chain, and I personally guarantee you the bad guys won't even want to come out of their caves. For your consideration, the Jericho. I'll be throwing one of these in with every purchase of 500 million or more. It's a piece.
So many of you have spectacular hotels, and though that seems perhaps an extreme simulation, bringing people to your properties, you know, would have the same impact. You have beautiful, beautiful hotels, beautiful scenery. COVID has gotten in our way. And so a lot of you are being pretty creative and doing Facebook or live streaming tours of your property using your phone, which is actually a pretty good idea. They know that they're getting up to the minute views of your property. And so I do actually highly recommend that. But I also recommend something, it's a presentation software and it's called Prezi.com. And the reason that I recommend this, if you have to do a virtual site inspection, I hate when you sit down with your prospect and they say, and you know, you have this whole PowerPoint done and you're taking them through all the rooms and they say, you know what? I could care less about your guest rooms. I'm not going to have anybody spend the night. I only want to see your meeting rooms. The beauty of Prezi is you can have all this stuff here, but you can just click in and focus on exactly what they want to see. And there's a little bit of a wow factor to it. You can play a video, and this is the other tip that I will give you. All I did for these videos was take snippets of the virtual tour, the virtual 360 tour that the hotel already had done. I just broke it up into smaller pieces. It's silent because I am on a Zoom meeting with my prospect, talking them through this whole presentation. So they like it, they want to see more, they want to go someplace else. With Prezi, you get to control much more the whole experience. So say they want to see another room with socially distant setup. You can have those options here. Say they want to have a virtual meeting. You can have that, you know, you can show them what you can do to set that up here. Say they, you know, after all of this, they feel like they want to know, you know, about your restaurant. You can have in your folder over here, all of your other stuff. You can do this also on PowerPoint. They've actually upgraded probably in the last couple weeks, but PowerPoint doesn't have quite the same wow effect. So this is really how I recommend you do a simulated experience. It's also helpful even post-COVID when people are able to come again if they can't actually get to your property. I have one other little tip here for an app that makes this process easier. I have a lot of, when I'm trying to set up appointments with hotels to schedule a virtual site inspection, to do whatever, the back and forth is maddening. I put it in the form of a text message, but often this is like 1,000 emails going back and forth. Do you want to set up a time to talk about your meeting? Sure. How about Wednesday? Wednesday's not good. How about Thursday? What time on Thursday? And then you pick a time. I have 2 or 3. Eastern time? What time zone? Oh, I thought you were on Central. No, how about this time? It is an ordeal. So there is a tool called Calendly.com, and it has a free version. You can send Calendly to your client in an email. It's just a little link, and you say, pick a time that works for you. They pick a time. It's integrated with your calendar. You do have to keep your calendar up to date, but it's integrated with your calendar, and you can also give it some parameters. Say you only want appointments during certain hours. Your client then finds a time that's good for them, picks it on your calendar. They're asked their name and email address. You get an invitation. Your client gets a calendar invitation, complete with a link to Zoom. Everything is done for you immediately. There's no going back and forth. Again, there's a little bit of a wow factor, but unlike Mr. Bean in that original thing, it's a wow factor that causes less stress for your client. So this is just the final shot. There it is in your calendar, and that's the confirmation email that goes out. Everybody in the world should use Calendly. They have a free version, they have a paid version. Free version's good. The next tool I'm going to share with you is, and this is probably one of the most important tools for a B2B salesperson or marketer. You want to be a connector. You need to be the person that connects the dots to make your solution the obvious choice. Because remember, these people are overwhelmed. They have all this data. They don't really remember all of the details about your property. They might be confused and think that your property is this, and really your property is that. So your job as the salesperson is to do the best possible job you can to connect the dots for them. This is, there's a new concept that people are talking a lot about now. It's not really new, called the hybrid meeting. A lot of association people are trying to do hybrid meetings, meaning some of the people come on property, and this may not have gotten to Hawaii yet. Maybe it has, you can tell me. Some people come on property, socially distant, and they have their meeting, but it's also live streamed. And so you have audio-visual equipment that streams it out to the rest of the audience who are actually at home. What's happened is your audio-visual company has to play kind of a big role in this. And so a lot of times they will help you and send out information to your clients. And this is what it looks like, which I believe is a bit of a nightmare. It's stressful, it's not clear. And so again, I say, go to Prezi, go to PowerPoint, do whatever you can to plant the picture of what this hybrid meeting is going to look like at your hotel in your buyer's mind. You're connecting the dots. This is what it's going to look like. And again, what I like about Prezi is you have some people who could care less about all that detail and the amps and how many inches the screens are. They don't even know why you need the screens. But here, if you give them the visual, they see what you're going to do with the screens. And then you can click on each one of these items and the detail is there. This is important if you think back to the additional number of people that are involved. This component becomes important because you have different personality types. The person that you're talking to might not care about the detail. If there's somebody in the finance department, they might care, or the IT department, they might care. So you can send them a link to this Prezi. Say you've done this Prezi walkthrough with your client on a virtual tour. At the end, you can send them the link. They can send the link to everybody else, so everybody else can see what they want to see. They can get the big picture. They can get the detail if they are that kind of people. So obviously, I'm a huge fan of Prezi. I'm a huge fan of visual. More than anything, I'm a fan of video. So this is not a movie video. This is a video that I made for a client, honestly, in about 7 minutes. And our goal with this video was to explain to an association person exactly what a hybrid meeting was and why they should have it at So the tool that I used to make that video is lumen5.com. I highly recommend it. It uses AI. Many salespeople say to me, at this point, you've lost your mind. I'm not producing a video. In Lumen 5, all you have to do is type the script. So put together an idea in your mind of your customers before and after. So where their head is before, that's how you open it. And then where you want to take them to is your after. You just write the script, key it into Lumen 5. It marries your words with some selected video clips from its library, and then it puts them together. It even includes the music, and then you can just go in and edit it. So for example, this is hysterical. I teach this in one of my classes, and this kid sends me this video selling his hotel. I'm like, oh my gosh, I did not know your hotel was so beautiful. And he said, do I need to use my real pictures of my hotel in my video? Yes, that's very important that you not lie to your customers. You can insert your real images from your hotel. It's, literally it's a matter of uploading those files, and you can insert video, you can insert still images, and they have some effects that make it look like it's alive. Simplest tool you have ever seen. There's a whole bunch out there, and free. I think it's free if you have that Lumen 5 at the end. I think it's $29 a month if you want to get rid of the branding. I am telling you, don't do it now. Don't go there now. Pay attention to the rest of what I'm going to say. It is fantastic. You will love it. The next thing is staying on my theme of the hybrid meeting. It's a calculator. So the tool, the concept is calculator. It doesn't always have to be a real calculator. Remember, what I'm introducing here are concepts. In this particular case, I am recommending that you produce a calculator for your client. One of the scariest things about people right now, and again, you may not be experiencing this yet, but you will, if an association person is going to have a meeting, they're so afraid that they're going to invest all this time and only half of the people are going to show up. And so by giving them this calculator, and I actually have it, I need to move it over. I built this calculator in Excel in a couple of minutes. And what you're able to do is have them play around with the inputs, and they can see if they're going to lose or make money on their in-person meeting, and they can see how many people they're going to need to have to make it profitable more or less. So you can change this, say your audio visual package, you want the more expensive one. So you want to see how that impacts your bottom line, your on-site meeting costs. You know, it's going to end up being a little bit less, so they can key that in, or you could key it in for them. The green is how much they're charging. And so let's say for their on-site attendees, they're going to charge $600. For their virtual, it's only going to be $125. And then I even have inputs, or you can play around with how many people are actually going to attend. So let's say if I make it 600, I might only get 50 people, but I bet I can get 90 people. And so I'll end up, you know, ahead 10,000. The concept should be pretty simple. You are trying to appeal to your buyer who has that analytical bent, who wants to sort of play around with this and figure it out. You're helping them to overcome some anxiety. And so you're offering them a calculator. And just FYI, I do like to share, I practice what I preach on my very own website. I put an ROI calculator, so you can go there and you can figure out, if I send 10 people to training, how many room nights do I have to sell to break even? It is a very, very handy tool. And you can be creative in terms of what sort of calculator you're going to provide. I have one more idea I'm going to share with you. Checklists. Checklists are really helpful to help guide people down the path to purchase. They're tense, they're anxious. A checklist helps them put things in order. You could provide them a checklist that looks like this. I am not a fan. It's all right. It's better than nothing. But it looks a little organized, and it might not cause you too much stress. But back to my banquet menu obsession. All of us, when we order food at home in our B2C life, this is how we do it. We go to Grubhub, we go to DoorDash, we go to whomever, and we get pictures of food, and we get descriptions, and we get to build our menu and see exactly how much we're going to spend. We don't allow our customers ever the luxury to do that, and we should. And so I have searched high and low, and there is, in fact, an app. Normally, I try to find free apps. This one comes with a price tag, but there are other ways to do this. I discovered that eMenus, Sendin, has this very app. Take a look at what it will do for your customers.
Once your client is ready to choose their catering options for their event, they will need to create a YouOrder account directly from the home page of your eMenus link. If they already created a YouOrder account, they will just need to log in. Once logged in, your client will be able to create a new order directly from their My Orders page. To create a new order, your client will need to enter the event name and the event dates. Once the order is created, your client will be directed to a new event details page where they will begin to add in the different functions that will take place over the course of their event dates. From the event details page, your client will select Add Menu to browse your offerings and add their menu choices to each function. As your client selects their menu choices, the items that have choices and add-ons will be separated into sections for them to review and select. Once your client is finished adding their menu choices to their functions, the event details page will display the details of what is added for each function along with the associated cost. On each function, your client will be able to leave a comment for you to review, edit the function details, copy the function to another day, or delete a function if necessary.
I'm going to stop it there. You get the idea. It is a fantastic little module. I will also tell you, somehow the Fairmont hotels in Northern California have also figured out how to do this, but they do it a little bit differently. So go on their websites and try and pick a menu. In the olden days, it sort of makes me laugh. We would never have suggested that our clients do all of this work. Today, some of our clients would not like to do that. Some of our clients would love to do that. They'd love to play around and see how they can make the most out of their budget before they ever have to involve you. This particular product gives you a lot of control. It's not like they do this and it's set in stone. So don't, be alarmed about that. This just makes it easier for them to play around, take the information to their buying committee, get validation, get everybody involved with it, and everybody wins. So those are the examples that I have to share with you. It's more important that you remember the concepts, be a recommender, provide a calculator, try and simulate the experience, put a picture of your customer and your property in that customer's mind. Most important probably is to be a connector, connect the dots, make sense of it all for your customers. Checklists, if you can figure out a logical framework. And we didn't really cover benchmarks, but in an ideal world, if you can show them how their peers use you, it's actually a little bit of an emotional tie to them. And so it's another good approach to take from buyer enablement. And this is one of my favorite quotes. It's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, thank goodness. It's the one who's most adaptable to change. Our buyers have changed. Often we keep selling the same way. And if we want to win, we're going to have to figure out how to adapt. This is the class that I keep referring to. I've partnered with it's the Hotel Digital Sales Essentials. And that is all that I have to say. If you have questions, if you want to email me, I have literally taken us up to the last minute. I'm so sorry. Holly@scoutsimply.com is my email. I'm more than happy to give you any of the tools and tips. I've never met a problem I can't solve with an app.
Thank you very much, Holly. Yes, you did. That was awesome. There was a lot of information there. I don't know if anybody has any questions right off the bat. Yes, we are running out of time, but if anybody has anything, you can post it in the group chat or just unmute yourself and let us know now. A quick reminder that our next education event will be with Dan Waxman on August 18th, and you'll see a reminder coming up about that soon. Mari's asking the name of the video tool that you mentioned that uses AI.
Oh, it's lumen5.com. L-U-M. I just was going to put it in the chat box, but I'll put it so you can see it. It's lumen5.com, and it is amazing. Free.
I have a question, Holly. So we were talking about this just before your presentation started about what it looks like from an e-commerce perspective, and I wonder, in e-commerce, we always focus, or we usually focus a lot on reducing just the number of decisions that a user or customer makes, just decision fatigue. Is there a specific approach? I see some of the tools that are out there do that. There's still so many decisions that have to be made in a sales environment. Is there an approach that really specifically focuses on reducing the number of decisions that the customer ultimately has to make?
Do you mean apart from being a recommender? I mean, that's really...
Yeah, a recommender, a tool, or anything like that?
No, that you have to use some personal to be a recommender. I don't know of an app, although I might have to think about it. The value of a salesperson, I think, is to be the expert. And I don't think you can replace that with an app. That might be my one exception. So and I talk about this in the earlier stages that I didn't cover here, but you really, as a salesperson, want to position yourself as an expert. And as an example, an app that you're going to use to do that is LinkedIn. You're going to post content on LinkedIn, that is of value to your buyers, and that's putting you in the role of a recommender. So, you know, that I guess is an app, but mostly that particular skill set you should use. And the way that you display it, you can use a lot of apps. I like visual. And so canva.com is one of my favorite visual tools if you're just doing a single image, that you can put a visual picture and then you can put the words across. You know, that recommended menu items that you saw, I'm sure they did that in something like Canva. Make sense?
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. It's I'm just I'm curious what kind of lessons from e-commerce can be are applicable, and what you showed at the end, like tools to enable, you know, to kind of build shopping cart tools like that are obviously a clear thing. I just wondered where else the process could be optimized.
Yeah, the shopping cart abandonment, the pop-ups. I mean, that's, you know, on the e-commerce side, there's lots of things that the more you can personalize it, they now have video production tools that personalize the video and let you interact with it. So if I were in the e-commerce world, I would totally do that. That, you know, it gives you, do you want to go this way or that way? And when they make that selection, it cuts out a whole bunch of other stuff that you've got to share with them. So I'm a fan of interactive video. That first video that I showed you, the Mythical Man Month, is an app I call, that's called Doodly. I think that also could be helpful in e-commerce for explaining things, to simplify things.
Mm-hmm.
What else on your website? That's all I can think of off the top of my head. I'm going to have to give that some more thought.
Sorry to. Dan Waxman says you actually have to talk to people.
We joke all the time. In sales, you know, it is good to actually talk to people. E-commerce, you don't have to, but in sales, you do. I like it.
Dan realizes that's exactly what I was trying to avoid with my questions.
Yeah, and you know, all you have to do in e-commerce is provide the stuff for your salespeople to do. You make the videos.
Yeah, I think for you're right about personalization though. There's a play, if you, that comes down to customer data. If you make good use of that, you can, it powers that a lot better.
I didn't mention this in this talk, but there's a tool out there called Crystal Knows. I'll type it. Again, if you do have to talk or email to your customer, crystalknows.com. This is scary. This tool evaluates your prospect and brings back information to you. I see Carl going immediately to the website and tells you, is this a big picture person or is this a detail person? If you're sending this person a prospecting email, what sentence should you use to open your email? What sentence should you use to close your email? How should you convey your messaging? It is crazy scary. It uses AI to go out and evaluate different people, and it brings back your personality type, and it helps you figure out how to sell better to people. I don't know on a large scale, I mean, that would be really cool. What's the company, Dan, I just showed the video in the class we taught earlier, Data Sign. They're using AI for mass emails. They select their lists and they break it out by, for example, introverts or extroverts. And based on who you are, a different image is shown to you, because what's appealing from an image standpoint to an introvert is not at all appealing to an extrovert. And it does it for you automatically. So it just presents to you, based on your personality type, what's most appealing. Data Sign. That would be an e-commerce dream come true.
The hotels that I've worked with in the past didn't have meeting space or F&B. So I'm curious, why haven't the OTAs jumped on this opportunity? Is it just a logistics nightmare for the hotel to set up?
What opportunity? The banquet?
Yeah, the banquets and setting up your own meetings and all the difficulty that you run into.
It's so,
Why isn't Expedia and, you know, all those guys jumping on this?
why haven't the brands done it? I talk to the digital guys at Marriott, at Hilton. I bug them all the time, and they all say to me, everybody wants to do it. They start to do it. It's so cumbersome. They just don't do it. And so let's just write a check to Sundyne. Accor is the only company that I have found with the Fairmont hotels who actually started doing it themselves. There's a company called hotelplanner.com. They are jumping on this bandwagon. They're the closest to an OTA for that world.
Yeah,
They are
there's
starting.
others like Group Eyes there are other people trying to solve the problem, but I just think that the issue is it's like herding cats. You know, every hotel does it a different way. There's no unified technology like a PMS where all the stuff sits, still sitting in Excel sheets and things like that. So it's ripe for disruption, but nobody's figured it out yet.
I think
Yeah.
I would put some money on Hotel Planner. I like what they're doing. But Sundyne, this product of Sundyne has been around forever.
I think Dan's right though. The data, the portability of data, updating and menu stuff. Every hotel does it differently, and they have a different system. That's one obstacle, I think, also it requires a lot more customer service, and that, you know, I don't think that the OTAs that's not their model.
That's for sure. But no, it should be self-driven, and then it's up to the hotel to take over from there after you've paid the fee to the OTA. But that again is our problem. Why do we have to have a banquet menu with 1,000 lunch items on it? Like, why do we have to make it so complicated? Nobody wants 1,000 options. Dan and I in our marketing class talk about the more options you give, it paralyzes people. You know, you really want to limit it and make their life easier. So even if you're not a recommender, you still can scale down your banquet menus.
I think another gating factor is you have salespeople running it. So sorry, I couldn't help myself.
What, Dan?
Okay, well, if are there any other, I don't see any other questions. Well, thank you very much, Holly. I think we're out of time. That was really, it was informative to me. There are a lot of tools out there. So I gave everybody a reminder. Julie, were there any other reminders?
Dan's talk next month.
Yes, again, August 18th. Dan's talk, demystifying the Google machine. But we'll be sending out a reminder about that shortly.
And we're going to have like a contest in terms of who was better, Dan or me, if you would let us know at the end.
Mario, make sure your son doesn't jump out the window there. I don't know what he's doing.
I know. This is a COVID life, right?
For sure. All right.
Okay, great to see everybody. Thanks again, Holly.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Holly. Bye.
Thank you.